everyone, and welcome back to another Train Sim World 3 news video. This is Southeastern High Speed Timetable, a deep dive. So you can see there's like 20 screenshots or so of Southeastern High Speed on there, the extended Southeastern High Speed. So in our roadmap articles following the announcement of Train Sim World 3, Joe and myself, James, introduced you to a new timetable that will accompany the expanded Southeastern High Speed London to Ashford and Faversham route. Strap yourselves in because we are in for a long one. In this deep dive, we're going to going granular in terms of detail, covering almost everything you can experience in the refreshed and expanded Garden of England. So before we go any further, we are glad to say the following is true for all platforms. There are no missing or altered services on Gen 8 consoles. So pretty much, if you're on PlayStation 4 or Xbox One, you're going to get the same amount of services as next gen and PC. So PlayStation 5, Xbox Series and PC. And apparently there's double the amount of services as opposed to Train Sim World 2. And the route was already sort of fairly busy-ish. So firstly, a recap. Train Sim World 2 Southeastern High Speed featured a timetable with its reference based on the 2020 working timetable, which as it happens was much quieter than previous years. This was due to the pandemic driving down passenger numbers, resulting in vast changes across the network. So the original timetable featured a total of 271 services. So it's half hourly 395s between London and Faversham, dropping to hourly outside of rush hour. Half hourly 395 AI between London and Ebbsfleet low level, half hourly class 375s between Gravesend and Rainham covering the Thames link, half hourly 375s between Rochester and Faversham, half hourly 375s between Rochester and Gillingham, summer special 375s between Gravesend and Faversham, class 465 playable on the Rainham and Gillingham 375 services as well as the specials, 8 freight services using East Coastway and 4 rail tour services using Northern Transpennine. So there were several issues throughout this timetable which we wanted to address, such as incorrect start time for all services, making you 2 minutes late. So in the 395 you're pretty much always late. AI class 395s running faster than they should be able to on high speed 1. A lack of AI at certain stations, a lack of rush hour variety. Sorting out where all trains are actually supposed to be, and the use of pre-pandemic service patterns. When news arrived that Southeastern High Speed extended route for Train Sim World 3 was coming, we sprung to work with the intent of delivering a much richer timetable befitting of such a line and its soon to be found network-like status. So Southeastern High Speed in Train Sim World 3. The first decision we made was to start fresh, and then began with researching a different time frame. As even now, many services are not as good as they used to be, reference was found for the 2019 working timetable, and having plenty of commuting and train spotting experience with this timetable as well, we knew it was the right choice for Train Sim World 3. So, without further ado, here is a detailed look into the new timetable. So for High Speed 1, with the 30 plus mile extension to Ashford International, including the maintenance depot and a mere 3 platforms at St Pancras, the class 395 service patterns were the first port of call to get right, and there seemed no better way than to follow the exact diagrams of each of the units throughout the day. Whereas the timetable will tell you all the timings and platform information for all services in particular, locations throughout the day, diagrams instead follow the trains themselves, allowing you to see a full day's work for every single unit. So, on one of the screenshots you can see there's like a sunset in the background. Here's 395, 026 and 010 still tucked away neatly in Ashford Depot at the crack of dawn, and both units await a long and varied day on the Southeastern network. Each diagram has a number. 010 is on diagram 2 and 026 is on diagram 3. So let's see where they end up. So this actually is going through the order of the screenshots. So as a pair, these two units make their way out of Depot 5 in 5 Juliet 03 before running 1 Juliet 03 from Ashford International to London St Pancras. The sun is rising, Rochester can be seen from High Speed 1, it's looking like a good day. So yeah, the screenshot seems to be pretty much following through a Javelin service. This is but a snippet of the complex 395 movements throughout the day, just 2 of the 26 regular units out and about. As trains leave the route to other destinations, this doesn't seem necessarily make it easy to follow every single unit all day, but it ensures that we're able to get them in the right places, as without that, certain services run the risk of being left out. So round and round. Throughout the day and in the menu, you will see many services that are labelled St Pancras to St Pancras. Enter the loopers. These services, considered a single head code throughout their entire journey, see 395s depart St Pancras, continue along the Kent coast either via Ashford or Medway, before continuing to complete the loop back to St Pancras. For these services, it is imperative to check the descriptions so you know what you are driving, as St Pancras to St Pancras can mean St Pancras to Faversham, Ashford back to St Pancras, St Pancras to Ashford, and Faversham back to St Pancras. It is common for the onboard and station PIS to display an intermediate station for ease of navigation, otherwise it can be very confusing at stations such as Stratford International, where both platforms say St Pancras. One takes 7 minutes, the other takes 3 hours. Therefore, you can expect the trains to say destinations such as Ramsgate, Sandwich or Folkestone on the front. And yes, with these services essentially doing a 180-degree turn, the units do stay the correct way around when they eventually come back onto the route. As alluded to already, the full diagrams also allow for unique services as the Maidstone West shuttles, drivable as far as Strood. Unique empty stock moves along for non-stopping running throughout, including through Ebbsfleet, to practice changing power modes on the move. Oh wow. A favourite service of ours is 5 Juliet 96, although you have to wait and see why. So from 59 playable Class 395 services in Train Sim World 2, you can enjoy 190 in Train Sim World 3, and we've only just started. Let's move on to the Chatham Mainline. So, with the Chatham Mainline services, there was less of a need to exactly follow all of the diagrams throughout the day, as of portals at both ends going onward to London Victoria and the Kent coast. All that sorting out can happen in the background. However, attention to detail has still been put into all of the train formation lengths and making sure that if a service ran, it goes in. One big difference between the 2020 and 2019 timetables is that a majority of the 2 kilo head code services do in Train Sim World 2. These services just ran the short hop between Rochester and Gillingham, but in Train Sim World 3, a majority of these are now Dover Priory services in the off-peak, increasing the amount of gameplay between Rochester and Faversham. These services are timed to be Class 465 operated, but the 375 can run them too, whereas more mainline services are 375 only. And you can see, one of the screenshots says the 465. You will now see a mix of 4 to 8 and 12 car services, the latter primarily making an appearance during the rush hour. On additional services to and from the Kent coast, the likes of London Cannon Street. Outside of the peak, most services are 8 coaches, with more in the middle of the day being 4 as demand is lower. Another crucial element to the Chatham Mainline is coupling and uncoupling, which happens in the rush hour at Faversham. Services from London divide with each half going to Ramsgate and Dover Priory respectively, and vice versa, so you'll be coupling and uncoupling procedures. Other services which are also present and the peak-only services between Sheerness and Victoria. These are drivable between Rainham and Rochester, and Sheerness branch AI at Sittingbourne, which would have been nice to see the Sheerness branch included, but oh well. From a numbers perspective, the Chatham Mainline looks about the same at around 120 services, but the extension of the 2 kilo services to Faversham makes it naturally busier, not to mention all of the variety and added attention to detail, better recreating an accurate date on the route. And then you've got the North Kent line. Perhaps one of the biggest transformations to services that is the North Kent line. Gravesend Platform 0 used to be devoid of life. However, with the extension to Dartford, a whole bucket load of services are now present. 465 services from Gravesend go to Dartford, continuing onwards to London Victoria and Charing Cross, each with different stopping patterns along the way. During the rush hour, there were also services which are extended beyond Gravesend to the likes of Strood. These services feature a unique operational movement which sees 465s stop at Strood, pull forward slightly onto the Medway Valley line, and then reverse back into the other platform. Now that'll be fun to do. Reversing is done instead of changing ends owing to the 465's lack of walk-through gangways. Thanks to the additional work of extending the playable boundary at Strood, this is something which is fully playable, and you will see the full suite of Medway Valley Line AI at Strood. In Train Sim World 2, the decision was made to make things feel busier by adding in Crossy Thameslink services using the Class 375s. These ran between Gravesend and Rainham. In this new timetable, we decided that leaving the gap often was a more appropriate and a more realistic idea. However, do not fear. While the 375s don't often appear at Dartford, you can still drive it on a Slade Green Ramsgate ECS moves, covering the full line between Dartford and Faversham. That would be cool. For all you number crunchers out there, this equates to at least 150 services which are entirely new, not something previously possible before, and in fact, combined with the Chatham Mainline, makes the Class 465 the most used train on the route. And then you've got freight. Who's that coming over the hill? That's right, it's time to talk shed. The Class 66 has been a staple locomotive on modern UK routes since the beginning of Train Sim World. However, it's never really had masses to do. 8 services on Southeastern High Speed were on the original one, 13 on East Coastway and 16 on Great Western Express. With Train Sim World 3, these numbers combined are now blown out of the water, so let's go through how many freight services are now included. Off the bat, Southeastern High Speed 66 is accompanied by 2 freight wagons, the JNA and the new MFA wagon. Unlike passenger timetables which have strict, repeatable daily patterns, freight is a lot harder to pin down. Pick any day as a reference and stuff will change. They will be allowed to run early or lose their slots and run potentially hours late, and not even run at all. So it was crucial we stuck to the consistent plan when plotting the freight route. So, Rule 1. It has to be a service with a real head code. We didn't want to start making stuff up. Rule 2. Video evidence needed to exist, so we knew that the concept was supposed to be or how closely we could represent it. And Rule 3. Within as much detail as possible, we needed timing, so we knew at least roughly when to start each service. If a service met those rules, on the list it went. Throughout the day, there is a lot going on around Hoo Junction and the surrounding area. A large majority of the traffic occurs between Strood and Dartford and kicking off almost immediately with the first services departing before 1 a.m. The last at gone 10 p.m. You can also get a handful of shunting operations, moving wagons around in preparation for other services as well as light engine moves. There's more to freight than just these 2 wagons have to offer, however, so it's time to dig into layers. And there's even more seasonal services. As alluded to previous messaging, we now have the ability to enable seasonal elements to the timetable. So certain services in the real world do not run 365 days of the year. Railway operators change their timetables to meet particular demands and requirements, and the operators of heritage services often keep their excursions to particular months when the desire for leisure rail travel is high. In the context for Train Sim World 3, this new feature gives us the power to define when certain services are intended for, meaning that you will only see them as AI during the specified time of the year. You have the power of choice. If you want to drive these services at any time of the year, you can. But when driving other trains, you won't see them unless you are in the right months. Southeastern operate a handful of their own special services, this being the additional summer-only Class 465 services, which operate between London and Ramsgate via Dartford. You will only see these AI between June and August, when the demand for Kent Coast traffic is at its highest. That's going to be quite cool to see. And rail tours. You knew it was coming. 3 cheers and chuffs for the rail tours included in Southeastern High Speed. The Spirit of Steam, rather aptly named, makes use of the LMS Jubilee class and the Mark 1 coaches included in Spirit of Steam. This pair of services are much like the freight, based on real timings, which steam tours have traversed the route in reality, and you will only see these in the latter half of the year, so sort of, August time. The Charity Javelin, that's an EMU on a rail tour, pays homage to the many fundraising tours the 395s have undertaken throughout the years. These tours are renowned for taking 395s off the beaten track onto routes they've never been on before. So as a result, in the comparatively spends much of its time on the route, but this gives you the freedom to take the 395 onto Scenario Planner, drive it on as many routes as you like before it returns to home territory. My personal challenge to you, how many miles can you drive it to fill the gap? And also Lufthansa Formidable. Yes, it's a bit off the cuff, we know, but with the extension of High Speed 1, its 300 kilometers an hour speed limit, it almost felt rude not to let you experience that thrill. Pitched as two-pronged experiment, a total of 2 TGV duplex trains from LGV Mediterranee will appear in the middle of the day, only in March and April. One train is a playable train offering a total of 4 rail tour services along High Speed 1, and the other is an AI-only test train performing a non-stop run to London and back. So that will be interesting to that'll be interesting. Layered and AI freight. As mentioned earlier, there's more to freight than the included wagons. To further increase the variety of the freight on the route, a selection of playable freight services are using rolling stock available from other add-ons. A series of 8 services are included which operate between Hoo Junction, on the spur where the Isle of Grain branch splits off, and Dartford. These services are using the T-wagons from the BI Heavy Freight Pack, and what this does is recreate the vital services which ran between Grain and Heathrow Airport, delivering Jet A aviation fuel to power many of the aircraft that take off every day. 4 services are loaded trains to Dartford, and the other 4 are empty trains heading back to the Grain for refilling. While rather short in distance, these services pose a hefty 3,600-ton challenge, particularly in bad weather. Now that is bloody massive. Another service which is included, 6 Victor 92, makes use of the HKA wagon found in Great Western Express. This rather unique 2-parter requires a reversal move before later making its way towards Strood. In all, including these layers, you can experience a total of 53 services with the Class 66. The freight action doesn't stop there. We saw an opportunity to add in freight throughout the route, further bringing it to life in ways we've never seen before. Several times a day, container trains race their way through Ashford International Station on their way to and from Dollond's Moor, a key staging point for freight between UK and France. This is, of course, accompanied by an all-day Southeastern AI at Ashford. You can also see similar AI traversing the section of the Tilbury lines adjacent to High Speed 1, as well as along the brief section of the North London line visible just to the north of St Pancras. Static stock has also been placed in a few areas. With the new and improved fences along the Dagenham stretch of High Speed 1, static stock as per reality can be seen here. And lastly, a suite of additional static stock has been placed on the East Coast Mainline, mimicking various upgrade works as it has been seen in recent years to rebuild the approach into King's Cross. And in closing works, we're glad that the day has come to be able to share all this information with you, and we think we've proven just how much we can ramble on about this, and that's left now is for you to experience it for yourself. And the total service counts, it's well over 500, wow. As we close off the final shot of Strood, we leave you again a few thousand words wiser and hopefully raring to sink your teeth into this all-new timetable for Train Sim World 3 Southeastern High Speed. And there we go, that is a little article there. Hopefully I've been doing a lot of talking today, so hopefully I wasn't going over bits and bobs like that. But yeah, what does everyone think? Do put your thoughts in the comments below. Not long until Train Sim World 3 now, and the timetable looks astonishing for Southeastern High Speed. Apart from that, links can be found in the usual places: Discord, PayPal, merch store, and I hopefully will see you in the next one. See you all, and take care. Bye guys.